What music they make.
Sejam bem-vindos a mais um podcast de Metal Global. Hoje a conversa é com Ross Dolan dos Immolation, eles que passaram por Portugal no passado mês de fevereiro e que lançaram no passado dia 10 de abril o seu mais recente trabalho intitulado Descent. Já sabem que tem a versão rádio exclusiva na RTP Play. É passar por lá e procurar por Metal Global. Ora bem, os Immolation não precisam de apresentações, mas 2026 está a ser o ano deles de uma forma especial. Os titãs do death metal de Nova Iorque têm duas grandes digressões em curso, uma delas já acabou obviamente e passou por Portugal no passado mês de fevereiro, e lançaram Descent, o seu 12º álbum da carreira, no passado 10 de abril pela Nuclear Blast Records. Para falar então sobre a novidade Descent, a conversa com o baixista e vocalista Ross Dolan.
Hey.
Hello Ross, how are you?
Good, how are you? Thanks for your patience. My last interview just finished. I had some technical issues with my microphone on my computer, and I couldn't open up his link on my phone, so it was a big to-do, so sorry about that.
The perks of modern technology.
Always. So thanks for your patience.
It's okay. And, before we jump into Descent, let's talk about the tour you guys did in Europe with Marduk and Mayhem. You guys played Portugal as well. How was that tour for you guys?
Oh, it was amazing. It was an amazing tour. We didn't know what to expect. We were first out of three. We knew it was going to be a strong lineup, but we've toured with both bands in the past, so we knew as far as that goes, it would be a great tour for us. But we just didn't know what to expect since we were first up, and a lot of these shows there was only about half an hour between doors and when we actually hit the stage. So when we walked into the situation, we kind of felt like we'd be playing to maybe half empty rooms, every night, because we were first up. But that wasn't the case. I mean, we got to play the full rooms every night, and the crowds were big. I mean, they did Mayhem. I think the tour package just did phenomenal. It pulled in a lot of people every night, more people than we were expecting, and I think more people than even Mayhem was expecting, because we talked a lot to them about that throughout the tour, and they were impressed too with the numbers. So yeah, I think it was a strong tour due to the fact that there was three amazing bands that were, us and two other amazing bands that were involved in this tour that have a lot of skin in the game. We've all kind of been around the block a number of times, so there was a lot of mutual respect. All the bands had great crews, so there was no bullshit, no ego. Everybody helped each other out, and we love the Mayhem guys and we love the Marduk guys. Marduk guys, we've probably done about 7 tours with those guys over the years, and Mayhem we toured with in around 2017, I think, in the States here. So we're familiar with with all the people involved. So in that sense, it was very cool, very easy, very laid back tour. But it was just spectacular, man. The crowds were great. The response for all the bands was really spectacular. So yeah, we were super excited to be part of it, and it was as good as we were hoping it would be. So
cool. And you guys been doing this for almost 40 years. What is the secret for an extreme metal band to last this long? Because if you look at the music industry and stuff, it's not supposed to happen for a death metal band to last that long. But sure. What do you think is the secret behind the longevity of Immolation?
I don't know. I think, number one, we enjoy what we do. We actually, we're still very passionate about, I think, every aspect of what we do, whether it's, writing the songs and starting to, rehearse them together, to the recording process and finally hearing those songs come to life. We enjoy the touring aspect, mostly the touring, because that's when you really get to connect with the fans one-on-one in real time, and you get to kind of, get there and promote, your new music, and you get to share it with people all over the world. So we love that aspect of what we do. Even the press, like what we're doing now is cool. This is the first time we really get a sense of what people think of the new music, because we don't know. We've been listening to some of these songs now for a year. The first song was finished in March of last year. So we have a year now behind us, and we're finally starting to get feedback from people like yourself, who have the record, have gotten to listen to it, and are, and we're engaging in conversations, about that. So, even that part of the process for us is cool. We look forward to it because, it's always good to get some feedback, and especially when the feedback is positive, so it's something we enjoy fully. I think we're fully immersed in what we do, and we're very passionate about it. So I think that's probably the main thing, if you enjoy something and you could kind of make something out of it, and we never expected to make a career out of this, but lo and behold, it happened. So we're just very fortunate that so many people still like our music. It keeps us relevant in a sense. So I couldn't really ask for anything more, to be honest.
Yeah, and you guys, since the beginning, you really haven't. You really focus on the songs and the songwriting, and your style remained very constant throughout these years. The production changed a bit, obviously, because things are a bit more modern. The sound is a bit different, so things sound a bit more full and more powerful. But you guys never felt the temptation to try going, let's say, in a more friendly approach, commercial direction, so to say, with the music? What led you not to, take that chance with Immolation?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. When we started, we never thought or had aspirations to be in the game this long. We never thought we would record a record. We never thought we would be touring the world, let alone for like 38 years. When we started, it was just a fun thing, we weren't really getting into this for recognition. We weren't getting into this, so we could say, hey, look at us, we got a band, and, whatever. This was a personal thing. We just liked this extreme form of music, which was kind of new at the time, back in the 80s. Death metal was just kind of starting to become a thing back then, and there wasn't a lot of bands. So we certainly didn't get into it for, money or fame or recognition. Definitely not. And nobody even knew what the fuck we were doing. You know what I'm saying? People, we used to rehearse at a rehearsal space that had like a bunch of bands at it, and like they were all glam bands and thrash bands and rock bands. And, we were the band that they would fucking walk by our room and probably laugh at and think we were a joke, but we're probably the only band still around now out of all those bands from back then, so I guess it says something about the path we chose. We never expected this type of music to have this type of longevity, especially when it comes to us. But that being said, we always believed in this music. We always believed this music could get bigger than what it was, when we started, and kind of, make its way out of the underground. So it wasn't just, trading demo tapes, that actually, it would be out there in a bigger way. And sure enough, it happened, and death metal became bigger and bigger, and it had its, ups and downs, of course, throughout the years. The 90s were rough, of course, but, in general, it's a very unique genre of music. It's still very relevant. It's still popular. We always have an influx of younger fans, new blood all the time. I see it every tour we do, so that's super positive. And the fact that a band like us that's been around for almost 40 years could still be relevant is mind blowing to me. You know what I'm saying? So, I guess, we were just very fortunate to kind of get in on the ground level and stay with it as long as we have, and still have that excitement and that passion for it. So, so yeah, I guess our story's kind of unique and lucky, in some ways, but, there are a lot of bands out there who did way better, and are still going. So, I guess it says a lot for the staying power of this genre,
Yeah, and you mentioned like recognition, and we are in 2026 where social media is king. If you're not on social media, you don't exist basically, or something like that. How do you guys deal with that side of the business now? Because even though you're an extreme band, you still need to be on those social media sites, some of them, and put content out and stuff like that. How do you guys deal with that? It's something that, it's like, oh, fuck, I have to do this again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more to manage for sure. I mean, I'm not on any social media personally. It's not my thing. But the band is, and I think social media for the band is like a great tool to promote your music, to promote your concerts, to promote, every aspect of the band. So it's a necessary tool. And, honestly, Bob handles most of the social media. He does all the posting on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. When we go on tour, he's the one who puts together all those video montages each night and gets it out there. So yeah, he's really good at doing the social media end, and then, we also have some help from the label, of course. They're always, really helpful if we have, for example, something we don't know how to do, or how do we do this, or they're always great at stepping in and saying, here, we'll take care of this, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's like, it's like an extra job now we have, to kind of promote on social media, but it's fine though, because I think you get a lot more bang for your buck on social media. One post could reach people all around the world instantly, so it's a lot better than the days when we were writing letters to fans,
I remember those days where we'd get letters from labels and from the bands, but there was like, there will be PR people doing, going the extra mile to promote the band. Even though PR still exists, I think social media is taking over a bit of that PR, even though you cannot really take away from the PR human side, the connection you have with that person. It's still, for me, it's very important instead of, but sometimes you have to go online, message a band and say, listen, you guys don't have a PR. How can I talk with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to have the PR and to kind of coordinate everything, because, like, for example, now this week we've had a lot of interviews. This was kind of like the first big push. So, it's kind of tedious to kind of coordinate the times and figure out what works for everybody, and there's multiple people involved and, sometimes multiple time zones. So, yeah, for us, it's a friggin' nightmare, So, I mean, Kristen and Arne and our whole team at Nuclear Blast are just like awesome at like, really arranging stuff in an easy way to kind of, to allow us to kind of, get through the day and make sure we don't miss anything. Sometimes it's, it gets a little tricky. Like I ran late on my first interview, as you know, and kind of delayed us, and we're going to run late now. So I'm going to delay the next guy. So, you have this domino effect, but that's nobody's fault. That's just, that was a tech issue today. So,
yeah. And there is another issue that I haven't told you about, but because we haven't changed daylight savings, the schedule that I had was supposed to be like, in half an hour. So I kind of realized, oh shit, the daylight savings are not in. So there's a time difference, but yeah, it's all good. And let's go to Descent. It's a fucking amazing record. It's, for me, I'm so happy to hear a death metal band still making like great music, great riffs, great hooks.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
And the production again, it's fucking amazing. It sounds really powerful. And
Cool.
You mentioned like you're sitting on this album like for a year now, or at least some of the songs. So when did you guys start working on the songs for the Descent?
The first song Bob finished in March of last year. That was the first track on the record, These Vengeful Winds. So that became the first track, and that was the first song he wrote. So so March is when the whole process started, and I think probably by September, maybe early to mid-September, everything was finished. You know, all the writing was finished. So, you know, it took some time. It took a couple of months. So from the time he was finished with the writing, it was only a few weeks. We went in the studio the beginning of October. So yeah, so some of the songs, like that first song, probably the second song that he wrote, were around for almost a year now, or maybe a year. So, you know, so there's a lot of time to kind of let these songs kind of grow on you, you know, and which is good because then you have time to kind of think about not arrangements, think about lyrics and ideas and concepts. And then once those start coming into play, then you could really start thinking about an album title, and you could start thinking about the album artwork, you know. So all of that stuff comes after the music and after the lyrics. So it's a process, you know, and we've done it enough times to kind of be comfortable in the process and to kind of know what's involved, what next steps to take. So yeah, for us it's you know, it's business as usual. You know, we had a weird recording session this time, in the sense that we weren't all together in the same studio. So we kind of recorded everything kind of fragmented. So we did drums out in Ohio. Steve recorded and tracked his drums with Noah Buchanan and Mercenary Studios in Ohio. We did the guitars, the bass, and the vocals here in Rochester, New York, with Justin Passamonte at his like home studio. And then we did the leads. Bob and Alex recorded leads in Virginia at Alex's house at the end. So everything was kind of done in, you know, 3 different sections at 3 different locations, and then everything got sent out to Zach Oren on the West Coast, and he mixed and mastered it. So everything worked out great in the end, you know, even though we weren't able to be together in the studio. It worked out, and that's only possible because of, you know, modern technology, internet, and you know, all that good stuff. So.
And this Descent, it's the way the world, mankind is going.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's hard at this point in time to wake up and look at the news feeds and you know, you do your doom scrolling in the morning or in the evening or whenever you do that. It's hard not to get upset. It's hard not to get disillusioned with humanity, you know. And I think there's an overwhelming sense of like just hopelessness so many people feel, and despair and anger and fear, you know. So, you know, all of these emotions kind of play into, you know, what this album's about, you know, what's happening right now, you know. And I think each album is reflective of that. I've said that a million times. Like, each record in our timeline is very reflective of where we were at that point in time. And I think Descent is an angrier album that has a lot more venom in it, and it has you know, this overwhelming sense of despair and hopelessness throughout. And I think you know, that's obviously intentional, because that's how kind of we are feeling. And, you know, the music and the writing for us is an outlet. It's a really good outlet to kind of let out some of that, you know, pent up, you know, frustration with the way things in the world are unfolding, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, Descent is very much a reflection of where we are right now in the world. You know, the album cover, that angel is very representative of humanity, you know, humanity's descent into this very dark place where we're headed, you know, humanity's descent into this chaos that we find all around us daily, you know. So that's the idea behind Descent. And like each song kind of touches on different aspects of kind of what we observe around us right now, you know. And and how things are progressing or devolving, you know. So that's kind of what the idea behind Ascent is, and the cover and everything.
Yeah. Do you think politicians are taking the place of the church in a way that makes people more annoyed and angrier than ever? Because, you know, obviously there's a lot of, you know, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the church. I hate religion of any sort. And,
Yep,
you know, for a long time, you know, the church was a problem. But now in the forefront, the politicians are taking center stage and making me like, you know, probably those guys weren't that bad compared to what the fuck you guys are doing now.
Well, yeah, you know, and then you have this kind of merging of religion and politics. Yep. With like Christian nationalism, for example, you know, and that's really all that is, you know. It's this movement to kind of, you know, embed these Christian ideological, you know, ideas into our laws and our government, you know, and it's, you know, it's not a good place to be. Yeah. in a country that's a free country, you know, that's kind of separated from religion, all religion, you know. We allow people the right to worship whatever you want, and I'm fine with that. I have no problems with that. But when it's forced upon people who don't want to take part in it, that's when it becomes a problem, you know. So anyway, so yeah, absolutely, you're spot on. And politicians, politics today is just ugly and dark and horrible, and I hate everything about it. I hate how it's devolved into the shit show it is now. I really do, and I think, regardless of where you place on that, whether it's right, left, center, it doesn't matter. It's all bad right now. It's all bad. None of these people, I think, reflect the constituents they represent, you know. And I think it's obvious, you know, when you see a lot of stuff happening that most people are not happy with. Most people are not down with what's going on. So yeah, you know, we're not, you know, I hate getting into politics because we're not a political band. You know, I try to keep it light when it comes to that stuff. You know, we have our political, you know, talks behind the scenes amongst ourselves, you know what I'm saying? But I think it's all divisive. Yeah. Politics, religion, it's all divisive, and it's intentional too. I mean, that's my belief. I've always believed that, you know, dividing people along political lines, dividing people along religious lines, along racial lines, along different social lines that separate us and divide us, you know, that just makes it easy for the people on top to continue with the grift. Yeah. You know, that's all that does, because we take our eyes off the ball, and then, you know, all the behind the scenes shit happens, and, you know, we're not seeing it because we're focused on all these other divisive measures that get thrown out at us, you know. And, you know, we wrote a lot about this type of thing on Atonement. You know, there was a lot of that on Atonement. Fostering the Divide was a song that was about that. The Distorting Light was about how the media changes our perception of events, you know, and they could tailor it to kind of what their agenda is. So, you know, that's what that song's about. And, you know, we have a lot of stuff on this record that's specific to kind of what's happening now today, you know, and that's just always the type of stuff that we enjoyed writing about because it was real. You know, even our take on religion, you know, we were never a satanic band ever, you know, but, you know, we always wrote about, you know, the religious institutions, you know, and how, you know, the hypocrisy and the corruption that's embedded in these institutions. And that's kind of always what we've kind of written about, you know, and we've done it in a way that I think kind of, you know, makes sense to people, and it's done in a non-preachy way. It's done in a real human way, you know, in an honest way, you know, and I think a lot of people feel the same way, you know. So anyway. Yeah.
Very good. And we started like talking about that you guys did in Europe. And, you know, next month you guys embark on an amazing bill, you know, of a tour, Behemoth, Dayside, Rotting Christ. Are you guys looking forward to that tour?
Of course, man. That's, it's going to be a huge tour with amazing bands. Like, all bands that we know really well, bands that we've, shared the stage with in some capacity or another, whether it was on tour, whether it was in festival situations, and bands we like, and good people. So yeah, of course, this is going to be a huge tour for us here in the States, and we're like totally excited for it. So
cool. All right, Ross, I won't take you much more time. Thank you very much for your time. All the best for Immolation. Come back soon to Portugal, please. It was a great show in Lisbon. So looking forward to see you guys again. And Descent, fucking amazing record. Great death metal.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much, man. And yeah, we had a great time in Lisbon. It was an amazing show. You guys were fucking kick-ass, dude. It was a great crowd. So thank you, man. It's nice talking to you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. I hope to see you guys soon, all right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Metal Global foi conversa com o Ross Dolan, baixista e vocalista dos Immolation, para falar sobre a novidade de Descent, o 12º álbum da carreira da banda norte-americana. Eles passaram por Portugal em fevereiro, na digressão que trouxe também os Mayhem a Portugal. Conversa interessante então com o Ross Dolan dos Immolation. E assim chega ao final deste programa. Dúvidas ou sugestões, enviar e-mail jorge.botas@rtp.pt. Visite o site metalglobal.pt e podem me seguir no Twitter e Instagram em @Mountain King. Se estão a ouvir esta versão em Apple Podcasts, Spotify ou YouTube Music, é subscrever para não perder nenhum episódio. Eu volto no próximo programa. Um forte abraço.
Children of the night, you will live through the centuries to come, as I have lived. Good night. Good night.